Welcome to sc.exe remote execution. In this video, we're going to be covering remote execution with sc.exe. I like to call this one service manipulation. It's a really cool way we can get the remote computer to execute our implant so we can jump over there, continuing our operation and continuing to worm our way through the customer network. Now with this execution method and the two others located in this section, SCTasks and MMC, I'm actually just going to execute just a random executable on the actual domain controller. If you want to see me actually set up the sliver infrastructure, create a remote implant, upload it, and execute it, you can click through to the scenario video in this section where I do all of that with service manipulation as well. All right, with that out of the way, let's jump in and check out service manipulation. This technique is seriously amazing. I have used this so many times in operations and on certification tests. It's an awesome tool to have in your toolbox. So how service manipulation works, we're actually gonna manipulate a service on the target machine to point at whatever binary we wanna start. We're gonna execute it, we're gonna start the service. Then we're going to change the service back to point at its original payload. It's super stealthy. You're not creating any services on the host, which is awesome. A lot of other remote execution techniques like psexec actually creates a service on the target, executes, and then deletes the service, but there's a ton more logs that get created as a result of that. So this is definitely a good option if you need to stay a little bit more stealth. So I'm basically just gonna follow the RTFM over here. We give you a great example service called VSS, but I will go over a couple of the requirements that you need to walk through to make sure the target service is compatible. Some services actually run with different privileges, so the last thing you want is to execute your payload and it's running as like a low privilege service. So VSS is typically a good go-to. So I'm gonna go ahead and start typing over here. You'll see me use the host name. The host name's perfectly fine to use with sc.exe. And sure enough, I ran my QC just like the RTFM says over here, and I got a little printout. This is just some basic information about your service. And more importantly, I really need to keep an eye on the original bin path because I'm gonna be changing this to point at whatever payload, implant, whatever executable I want to run. So I need to change it back to what it's originally at. I need to have that name. So go ahead, copy this name somewhere. I'm gonna copy it and put it in a notepad. We have to keep it somewhere safe because if you lose this, yeah, that's not gonna be good. Service start name, local system. That's the highest system privilege you want on your services. So any service that has a service start name of local system, good to go. So now we're gonna load up our next command here, sc try dc1 query VSS. The big requirement here, we need to make sure the service is stopped. If it's currently running, we don't wanna be changing the bin path and trying to start it again. You're just gonna create issues. So make sure it's stopped just like it is right here. We're good to go. Now comes the fun part. Let's actually change the bin path to point at an executable that we want to execute. Now again, you would upload your remote access tool and execute it, which we're gonna be doing in our scenario, but in this example, I'm just gonna launch another executable on the host to make it quick so you can see the full technique end to end. So we're gonna do sc.exe, chai dc1, config vss, bin path equals cmd.exe whack c start whack b, c windows system32, upmpcont.exe, error equals ignore. Now let's step through this step by step. So we have sc.exe, that's the binary we're calling, obviously. We're targeting the chai dc1. Again, this is the remote computer, right? We're on a chai workstation right now, targeting this remote computer. We want to configure the VSS service. We're setting the bin path attribute of the service to cmd.exe whack start whack b, all the way down to upmpcont.exe. Now let me explain just really quickly what's going on here. I am starting the upmpcont.exe executable. This executable is not a service binary, and I'm interacting and making a service call it. Now services are kind of unique. There's a very specific binary type that needs to run to tell the service, hey, I ran successfully. upmpcont is not a service binary, so it will not go to the service control manager and say, yes, I'm running successfully. That means the service is not gonna get notification and it's gonna kill it. That's why we're doing the cmd.exe whack start whack b in the beginning. If we do it this way, the service control manager is gonna kill cmd.exe, but guess what? Our C Windows System 32, our upmpcont.exe, is gonna still be running on the host. So it's a little bit of a workaround to get a regular executable working with Service Control Manager. And then finally, we're gonna do error equal ignore, just so it doesn't log that that service didn't start successfully. So I'm gonna go ahead and fire that off. It looks like change service config success. I am a big fan of always checking, so I don't want to trust that it's working correctly. Let's do a QC VSS. And then sure enough, cmd whack C, start whack B, C Windows System 32, upmpcont.exe. Everything is primed and loaded. All we have to do is start the service now, and it's going to kick off that upmpcont.exe. Let's give it a try. We need to do sc.exe, chai dc1, start VSS. Now, we did get this error back, but again, I already explained we expected this. It's not an actual service binary. It should still be running on the target. So let's go ahead, let's set this back. Again, I always like to set everything back right away before I forget. So we'll do config VSS bin path equals C Windows System 32. And then I think it was, yep, SVC. Perfect. And then we'll do error equals normal. And then we'll do SC QC VSS. We want to make sure. Awesome. We set it back successfully. No one's even going to notice what we just did. And then lastly, I do want to show you all that it works successfully. So we're going to go ahead and do a task list of that target system. And we're going to do a little shorthand notation that we learned in a previous video. I'm going to pipe in find string, and I'm going to look for upmpcont.exe. So this is going to run the task list on the remote machine. It's going to come back and it's going to filter out any of the output that isn't upmpcont.exe. So let's give this a try. We got it right here. upmpcont.exe started by NT Authority System. That is a great way to remote execute an implant on a target system.